Hello, my name is Africa and I am the manager of Legaligo Food Consultancy. In this video, I will talk about the notification of food supplements in the European Union. First thing to say is that most of the EU countries require a process of notification before you can start selling your products. And very important is that it doesn't exist an only process of notification of food supplements for all the European Union. So you must go country per country, following its rules and the process to start selling your products. And the first issue to bear in mind is that in order to sell food supplements at any country of the European Union, the food business operator, which is the company who will distribute the products, must be a company with registered office in the European Union. So, a company from China or from the UK will not be able to notify the products. They will have to include in the labels of the products an importer, which is a company with registered address in the European Union. As a general overview, I can tell you that we have to follow 3 important steps to do this process. First thing is that the label of the product must be translated into the official language of the country where you want to sell your products. In Spain, labels of the product must be in Spanish language, French in France, Italian in Italy, and that's all. So, once we have the label translated to the local language of the country, the second step is that it is absolutely mandatory to do the label check compliance of the label to make sure that the label, the content of the label is perfectly okay with the internal regulation of the country where we want to sell. For example, each country has its own limits for vitamins and minerals, or we have to consider if it exists mandatory warnings to be included in the labels of the products. So it is very important this study of the internal regulation of the country where you want to sell. And the third and final step is that once the label is absolutely okay and compliant with the regulation of the country, we have to start the process of notification. In most of the EU countries, the process of notification works as a responsible declaration of the food business operator. This means that once you submit the label of the product before the relevant authorities, you receive the pre-market authorization. And from that moment, you can start selling your products. So this is normally very fast. And this is how it works in Spain, in Ireland, in Italy, in Germany, in Poland, in Luxembourg. However, we have other 2 countries in the European Union very important, which are France and Belgium. And these 2 countries are different. Why? Because once you submit the label of the product before the authorities, they will check the content of the label in detail. So everything will be double-checked by authorities, and only when the authorities confirm that everything is correct, they will give you the final pre-market authorization. It will take time in these countries, normally some days or some weeks, normally no more than 6 weeks. And once you receive the pre-market authorization, you can start selling your products in the country. However, in any case and anyway, the food business operator, which is the company that appears in the label of the products, will be always the only responsible of the content of the label, and he will be the only responsible for the sale of the products. So authorities will not assume any kind of responsibility, and you can receive any kind of requirement in the future in case they see something is not correctly. So this is a general explanation of how it works, the notification of food supplements in the European Union. But if you want more information for any specific country or you have any kind of question, we will be pleased to help you with your project.